Hello there and welcome to yet another edition of Rock Tales. You still haven't had enough. Nick Carpenter here with Steve Blacknell today. The two of us you have, with the very best of the music industry. We always say that. That's always our plan, but instead we got this bunch of reprobates, industry veterans, heritage artists we call them. We'll let them introduce themselves, but the idea is that we're here to share amusing tales and amusing anecdotes from all our various experiences in and around showbiz and the crazy world of music and celebrity. You can be as libelous as you feel your lawyers will allow you to be. Feel free to swear in moderation. You can name names if you think you can get away with it. But the accent really is on light-hearted humour and fun. So your best dinner party stories. I was about to say, now that we've all kind of warmed up a bit, it might be a good time to just do a little intro. Just one line, just a very quick line saying who you are and what you do or what you've done or what you're known for. So it would be something like, hello, I'm Steve Blacknell. I once vomited over Phil Collins on Concorde.
Yes, well, I'm Chris Griffin. I'm retired now, but for my sins, I was in regional promotion and then TV promotion and then international. But my wife does remind me that if only I'd been on some royalties for the ABBA Gold album, which is now 30 plus million worldwide, and his last year was still top 20 in the UK for sales, we'd be very rich.
Great. John?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Briley. Started off as a musician, then went to be a plugger, then ran A&R for various companies, Polydor, Areola, Jive, and ended up managing Mutt Lange and spending 3.5 years of my life in Holland making Hysteria. And then I went to run international at EMI in Capital. And now I scrabble around and do whatever I can do to make a living.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Neville Farmer, writer, musician, composer, producer, filmmaker, and all-round media slapper.
We've all sort of worked with difficult people. Rock stars are not normally that easy. They're meant to be difficult most of the time. Could any of our people here, Neville, Chris and John, any particular people that you've worked with that have been right fucking pain in the arses?
I suppose I've been quite lucky, really, because, if you're an artist, then you've got to be driven by an ego for your success to have any kind of purchase, really. And most of them have been really nice. I mean, not many remember your birthday or not many remember Christmas, with a few exceptions. Tina Turner was great. She always used to give us presents. So did the Pet Shop Boys. Always used to remember when it was people's birthdays. And Tina used to do little things like she'd understand that when I was running international at EMI, she'd understand that the girl who got her the TV in Belgium, didn't get paid any more or less, depending on whether she got Tina a TV in Belgium. So what she'd do is she'd understand that and bring them back. Let's take Belgium as an instance. She'd bring them back a box of Belgian chocolates. And that always used to go down really well. There were people, let's see, who were a little bit more challenging. The one who springs straight to mind is Nick Rhodes. Because Duran were pains in the arse to work with, because they always wanted to fly first class everywhere, and they were always trying to get you to book them in the 5-star hotels when they paid for it themselves. I'll give you an instance. There was one time, and it was about the time of Ordinary World, and they were down in, they'd managed to blag themselves in a suite in the Hotel du Cap down in Cap d'Antibes. And I got a phone call from Nick Rhodes wanting me to fly him first class from Nice back up to London, and from there first class across to New York so I could pick up his keyboards from New York. Now, firstly, can you imagine Nick Rhodes carrying any keyboards? So that was bollocks for a start. And secondly, Roger Trinder, who you guys will remember, who's sort of travel agent with the stars, Roger had told me that the guys had flown down there on a charter flight anyway. And we're just trying to blag it back. But that was challenging. That was always a problem.
Yeah, Duran, at least Simon Le Bon could sing in tune. Oh, actually, no, he couldn't. I remember now. What about you,
Well, Trevor
Chris?
Long told me a story. Trevor was manager of, he ended up manager of Haircut 100. but he was the road manager for Duran Duran. And when they started out, he had, when they first were doing the first gigs, he had a Revox running in sync alongside the stage to provide the backing tracks and the backing harmonies. And he had another Revox in sync in case the first one stopped. And it got to the point where he thought about having a third in case the first two stopped. And then that got a bit ridiculous, so he knocked it on the head.
You just reminded me of one, talking about reel-to-reels. I think I may have said it before, but I was doing a sight and sounding concert with the Thomson Twins. And they had these big reel-to-reel things running up the back, you know, round and round, which was the backing track. So we got to the end, big applause, more. And so they had to wind the bloody tape back so they could do another tune. So I was up there like a prude, and they broadcast it, talking nonsense to the people at Hitchin. Well, Tom said, "It's ready. Okay, here we go once more for the Thomson Twins." You think, bloody hell, put a man on the moon and this.
Well, Trevor swore blind to me that when on one of the first, I think it was the first live Duran gigs, he had to put different coloured bits of tape on the piano keys so Nick wouldn't know where to put his fingers.
There was that famous incident, wasn't there, at Live Aid, because they played the American Live Aid, and Simon Le Bon missed that note so badly.
Oh, that was appalling, wasn't it? That was terrible.
You were there, Steve, weren't you? In Philadelphia.
No, well, I'm not sure whether I was or not anymore, because I've always sworn that I saw Bruce Springsteen and he was absolute shit. I've talked about that for years and years, and it was only a couple of months ago that Patrick Humphrey, my good friend, reminded me that he never played there. So I don't know what the hell I was on. No idea at all. Don't remember.
And we never found out who you were watching.
I remember seeing you, Steve, either saying goodbye to Phil Collins or welcoming Phil Collins off Concorde.
He went with him.
No, I went with him. Yeah, I went with him. Yeah.
Good point.
And it was, it was great, but, you know, trying to have a decent piss on Concorde, you just sort of bent your neck downwards, you know, but at least I'd done it. Chris Griffin, what about yourself? You work, well, you've worked with me, but what about working with
you were a pain in the butt, Steve. No, you weren't. I suppose the one I really remember was Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull, because I can remember they went on tour in 1976, and it was the first UK tour they'd done for several years. And I think Doug Darcy and Chris Wright said, "Look, I want you to go to all of the gigs around the country." So I went up to Aberdeen and Edinburgh and Glasgow, Newcastle, and so on. And I can remember going to the Southampton gig, and I walked into the dressing room, and Ian Anderson said, "Oh, you again."
No.
And I thought, you bastard, you know, because, I mean, I'd seen every show, and what I'd learned from that was, of course, that you often go and see the band before the show, and that means you can see the beginning and then bugger off, because it'll be the same as it was the night before, you know.
Well, that's right. I remember when I used to do Radio 1 in concert with Pete Drummond, if you remember Pete.
Sure.
You'd basically be on stage at the theatre in Regent Street, and you say, "Please welcome on stage, it's Eurythmics," and that was your job done. Well, I normally would go back in the control, the gallery with producer Jeff Griffin and watch. Pete never saw one band. He'd say, "Here they are, Eurythmics," and he'd piss off to the pub, and we'd never see him again, and that was it. So he turned up, walked on stage, did a minute, and then went to the pub and got completely pissed. Amazing. What a job.
You know, the first time I met Chris Griffin was back when I was a plugger. And it was, I was a plugger initially for a folk label, Transatlantic, you remember, on Marylebone High Street. Yeah. But at the same time, I was presenting the rock shows on the BBC in Nottingham. It was one of the first regional shows that had a weekly rock show called Extravaganza with Phil Holmes, who went on to be marketing manager at Magnum. And Evans was there as well, bloody Evans, who used to pop up everywhere. One of the artists we had on Transatlantic, most of them were finger in the ear folk guys, like Bert Jansch and Pentangle and John Remborn and all that lot. And apart from the Humble Bums, of course, which sort of paid for the label with Billy Connolly. And one of the acts we had was Alberto y los Trios Paranoias, if you remember them. And they used to take the piss out.
Wasn't it? CP
Yeah, they were hilarious. Jimmy Hibbert on lead vocals. And the drummer was a guy called Bruce, and he used to wear a tie that was made out of wood, a big wood tie, with a naked lady on. And we were doing the Nottingham Festival live in the Market Square. And, of course, the guests were Alberto's. And this is radio. This wasn't TV. And I was a young sprog. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to interview them. And Bruce said, everybody who's listening at home, you've never seen this chap, but he's so spotty, he looks like a fucking Eccles cake. And what can I say? I'm 19. What am I supposed to say?
Oh, that's cruel. That is very cruel.
Yeah, it wasn't even fair, Chris. That was the sad thing.